Hello, hello. Happy Monday. Can you believe it? And it's already, oh my God, 3 weeks into October. It is just flying, and this happens every year, I feel like. All right, remember being back in grade school and junior high and high school, and the summer went by so fast. And now I feel like it's reversed. It's really bizarre. Anyway, there I am. I'm actually live, and let me just go over and add the link to my text group people. All right. And I've got some new stuff. I have been uploading a bunch of new mesh stencils that are really cool. I've carried them for a while, but just a couple. Now I brought in a whole bunch. And I'm going to be trying out this new product to me. It's called Chalk Art. It's by a maker studio, which is Amy Howard at Home. And I'm using it with the Mesh Stencil because the one thing about these stencils is they're super detailed. This is the French Ram, who I just think is so charming. But they're on this mesh. And if you use, like a chalk paint, one-step chalk paint, whatever, if it starts to dry, it's almost impossible to remove. Hey, Shannon, how are you? How's it going? It was pouring here, Shannon, and I'm a frizzy mess. I was out with the dogs, and it was a downpour. What a day. I hope it's nice out there on the West Coast. And Shannon, I saw you say something, and I realized I need to, when I go to answer comments on Facebook, I need to kind of do it all at once because I go back and forth and it just moolah. But I saw something about the terracotta pot tutorial and something about the boxwood paint. So I will answer that. There, and Shannon's writing. Shannon is saying, I was watching your terracotta video. So glad you texted. Okay, so you saw that. And ask me any questions you want about that. I always use the milk paint on my terracotta pots. I just love it. All right, so let me show you. So these stencils, they're adhesive also. They stick. And I have a great big old bucket of water here, of warm water, because as soon, and I'm going to move it over, as soon as I'm done, I am going to take this off and put it into the warm water. I'm going to close my computer so it's not distracting me. Oh, are you talking about, Shannon, the boxwood color? Right? I know, they're out of a lot of stuff. And I know, it's been frustrating. Royce, how are you? Royce cycled. And she said, you make me want to play with milk paint. Yes. It's the best. I love milk paint. I do. I haven't used milk paint with a stencil like this. I will do an experiment and see how it comes out. But I stencil, regular Mylar stencil with milk paint all the time, and I love it. I love it. So yeah, Royce, you gotta give it a shot because it's really beautiful. All right, I wanted to show you. So this is the first time I'm using this one. And it kind of comes on a sheet. You pull it off the sheet, and then you pull it off that sheet, and it's like this sticky side. I'm covered in paint, and you could see the detail and the mesh, right? It's very cool. Look at Shannon. She's the milk paint queen, right? Shannon loves milk paint. We do. We love it. It's so beautiful. So I just painted, let me show you this. So I just painted one of my jewelry box finds, right? Another one. It's very heavy. It's got kind of this shape here like a Bombay chest. And I painted it in just a really kind of neutral gray. It's Luxe Gray, and this is by Amy Howard at Home. This is the one-step paint. This is the one-step paint that has a built-in top coat, though you can use regular, chalk-based paint under this. If you're into latex or acrylic, I think that's what Fusion is. You could use that. Milk paint, you can use that, absolutely. Hey, Deborah, how are you? Deborah's saying we're getting ready to have our first cool front. Not a cold front, a cool front. Yay! We had, I think in some areas of Connecticut the other night, it was in the upper 30s. I had a little drama today. My husband was in Hartford, so I'm in Connecticut, and we live probably about, I don't know, a half an hour away from Hartford, south. And the furnace was on. And I'm like, it's blowing cold air. Well, what's going on? Rick wasn't here. So I'm running around the house. I'm like, do I have the AC on? What's going on? And no, the furnace was on, but it wasn't blowing hot air. So of course I freak out and I turn the furnace off because I'm going to blow up, it's propane. And I call him up, and then he says, okay, don't worry, when I get home, I'll check it out. And then he calls me back 15 minutes later. He goes, you know what? I'm leaving now because now it's on my mind. And I go, yeah, you don't want to find me and the animals, dead in the house. I was being very dramatic. And not that I am all the time, you guys. So I ended up building a fire. And now we have a wood stove up here. Now I'm very warm. Let's just put it that way. Isn't that pretty? It is. It's just a pretty color. I get a lot of questions about chalk paint with a top coat as opposed to chalk paint without a top coat. Since I am not going to be wet distressing this, once I put the stencil on, I'm going to put on a coat of wax, and I'll tell you why later, but I'm not going to be doing any wet distressing, anything like that. That's when I whip out the one-step paint, because it's got a built-in top coat, okay, which makes it a really durable chalk paint, but it's not very manipulative, so I can't do a lot of cool kind of those wet distressing, those distressing techniques with it. But it's a beautiful, beautiful finish. It's really smooth, it's really nice, and that's it. All right, so what I have, it's the chalk art, and it's called Preachin' to the Choir, and this is the black. And then I've got the French Ram stencil. And the only thing I was worried about, because I just painted this and took the blow dryer to it, is that it will pull up the paint. So hopefully that's not going to happen. So as usual, I'm eyeballing this. And I know, it's like, is that going to bother me that script is going off the edge? No paint, no paint's coming up. All right. So it really starts to stick. All right, that looks good. So I'm smoothing it on, getting that to stick down. Isn't that beautiful? I just love him. And then I'm going to take the chalk art. Now, this is a really cool kind of rubber squeegee, but I suspect it's made for righties, and I'm a lefty. So if you're a lefty and you get one of these, keep that in mind. I think it'll be fine, but it's got kind of like a flat side, and then the other side is rounded, and I'm wondering, who knows? Okay, so I'm gonna take out some of this chalk art, and I'm just gonna start putting it on like this. And this is screen printing with these kinds of stencils for sure. when I was in art school in New York City, one of my jobs that I had, because I actually did put myself through school, but I worked as what was called a stripper. And what a stripper was is back then, and this was like 1982, all the silk screens were all, we had to hand draw them, right? Nothing was digital like it is now. And I would sit there with these screens with a magnifying glass, and this woman had all these crazy designs of little bears, and there were four of us, and we would sit there and get these drawings ready for the screens, and it was just meticulous work. All right. So I'm kind of just pushing this through, and it's really cool. And there's a little bit of a, see, I think this, I got all the kind of chalk art collecting on the side. Hold it this way. Right down at the end, I got some on the side, but that's okay because I could just paint over it. All right, I'm gonna have to leave it. Cover up my chalk art, and let's see. Ooh, that is super cool. So now I'm gonna throw this into the water because that's what you're supposed to do. And the only thing I see, and I kind of like it, is that some places it's a little bit darker than others. So I think I needed to put on more of the chalk art. My hand is wet. Let me show you. Right, you see that? So I think there's a little bit of a learning curve, but I really love this. Shannon's saying I could just see this title on your resume. And we really were called a stripper. And I looked when I was in, I think it was my sophomore year. I was 17 when I was a freshman, so 18 my sophomore year, and I looked like I was 14. I was really tiny. I didn't wear makeup. I was really small. And I told somebody that's what I was doing at my school, and they're like, a stripper. They didn't even know what it was. And then I had to, every time I would say it, I would have to say that. Hey, Sandy. So you guys, that's it. And I suspect that either the irregularity, which again, I kind of really like, was from the little squeegee, because I'm wondering if one part of it laid it down and the other side pulled it away. And because I'm a lefty, it was doing the opposite, because I've got a lot of paint on this side and not a lot of paint on this side. And I was pushing down, I think, with the wrong side. But I do have another kind that's just a really, really simple one. But I actually really love this. And it's gonna go in my boudoir somewhere with my collection of jewelry boxes. Now I just need the jewelry to go in there. So tomorrow, or actually Wednesday, I'm gonna come back and I'm gonna try the other one. If anybody out there uses these, let me know. It's like, is that shape for a righty? And that's what I think it is, because if you put the paint on that side, that would push it in. So that's what I suspect. Oh, thank you, Shannon. You're so sweet. Thanks, Deborah. I love it. And what I can do, oh, this is what I have to tell you about this chalk art. So this chalk art has to be sealed. with either a matte, like a varnish, a water-based varnish, or a wax. And you know me, I'm gonna do the wax. Because it has absolutely no binders. It will come right off. So that is what you must do with this. And I know for a fact if I wanted to, I can grab one of my little sea sponges and do some distressing of this. But again, I'm going to leave it because I think it's really lovely. The detail is incredible. It's just really, really beautiful. So how cool is that? So that's it, you guys. I might come back on later to start showing you the new products that I brought in. This is one of them. Would crackle, absolutely. So Shannon's mentioning like crackle either with Shannon, there's a crackle stamp. You could have crackle decoupage paper under this. You could have crackle, I could have done a stamp first. I think if you use these are mesh stencils on top of an actual crackled paint, you might get some bleeding underneath because you really have to kind of stick that down. There is a product by Polyvine I used to carry called Crackler that gives you the most beautiful crazing, but I would actually do that after. I think I did this, I've done the stencil. But I think a crackle, look at Deborah's laughing. Oh, a stripper in her boudoir. I didn't even connect those two. Oh, that is so funny. Once I did a dresser, I painted a dresser in my first shop. It was this big, beautiful dresser. It was all white. And I did a gray, like the Swiss cross. And I did a post and I said, look at my Swiss cross dresser. And everybody was laughing. And I'm like, why are they laughing at my beautiful dresser? And my husband's like, Jane, you said cross dresser. And I said, well, I didn't mean that, you know, and I was laughing. And, you know, I don't know. And of course, not to offend anybody, because man, we live in a free country. I don't care what you dress up in, but I was absolutely mystified, just like the stripper in my boudoir, right? Oh, you guys, so this was fun. I love it. And the last time I used a mesh stencil, I actually used a brush, and it was beautiful. You could see I did on my YouTube channel, I did a tutorial for that. This is you, right, Royce? I know. These things will go right over my head, and, you know, it takes me a while, and I'll think about it. I'm like, oh my God, well, I had no idea. I just didn't connect the two. So it's already dry. It's so cool. So I really suspect, like I'm going to say it one more time, that the little, what do they call this? The spreader, I think it's made for righties. So maybe we got to get Amy. I got to call Amy and say, listen, you got to make these for lefties, so that it would push the ink down. But I love it. I will be back on Wednesday and I'll show you how I'm going to finish this, because I do think I'm going to do some light and dark waxes just to kind of, you know, give this a little bit more character, this very smooth paint finish. That's the thing about the One Step. It's really a smooth, very smooth finish. So that's it. So we covered it all. Oh my God, there's one more thing I had to tell you guys. You know how I say draw? And a lot of people point out when I say draw for drawer. And I was listening to, when I was painting today and loading stuff onto the computer, an Agatha Christie story on Audible. And I forgot the narrator, the reader, the actor. He's an actor's name, but what a beautiful voice. And they kept saying draw, and I kept going back. And he's British, you know, they're British. And I said, they're saying draw too. I didn't hear drawer. If it was very slight. So I think being in New England, we New Englanders kind of picked that up from the British, you know, the English accent, because we just totally drop. We just say draw. We don't even say draw, like with a little at the end. So I just had to share that with you guys. All right, everybody, that's enough of my Monday rants and silliness. I hope you all have a really great day today. As I said, I might come back in a few minutes. I got a big pile of new stuff to show you what I have. And I'll definitely see you on Wednesday when we finish this and just give it a little bit more character with some light and dark wax. Shannon's saying, in all your tutorials, it's so cute every time you say it. Thank you, Shannon. That is very sweet. You know, for so many years, I didn't even notice, right? And then you leave your state, you leave your home state, and people will say, what are you saying, right? Hey, Danielle. Danielle definitely hears me say draw, right? All right, everybody, have the most wonderful, wonderful Monday, and I'll